This is the Friday Night Fever Afterburn, sponsored by Peden Heating and Air Conditioning.
Welcome to Friday Night Fever Afterburn. Week 7 of the season is in the books. That means we are on the downhill track as we head towards the playoffs. You've got a few fevers under your belt. How are you feeling?
For sure, yeah. I feel like I'm at the halfway point right now.
Starting to learn the area a bit, knowing the names. She's like calling out some different names this week. I'm like, okay, we're picking it up.
Exactly. I know a few guys to watch out for and a few schools that have actually impressed me recently. So
okay,
yeah,
she's been impressed. That's good stuff right there. Right before we get into the scores, I will tell you we have had some technical issues. So if things start getting choppy, if everything gets unbearable to watch, we'll let you know. We'll make a note of it. If that happens, we might say, okay, we're going to push things to next week. We'll pull these games forward. Right now, everything's going smooth. If you have any problems seeing us, let us know in the comments. We're going to get into all those scores. But again, tell us who you love. Tell us about the big games, the performances, and kind of who was your most impressive team tonight, players, all that good stuff. I'll let you go ahead and take this first page of scores, Karli.
Yeah, okay. So the game I was at, Cottondale versus Franklin County, they were both undefeated until tonight. And now Franklin County has one loss under their belt, with Cottondale winning 56-27. And then Blenstown with 38. Sneeds to 3, and then Rutherford 31, Port St. Joe 7, Arnold 40, and Vernon 0.
Right, and that was Rutherford's first win of the season, as I see some Rutherford faithful down in the comments. We'll get to those highlights in just a couple minutes. But Weehawken also getting their first win of the season. There was 2 teams that were trying to get their first win tonight. Weehawken gets the job done at home, 20-7. Bozeman on the road at Destin. I know that they were leading earlier in the game. They end up losing, Bozeman that is, 24-21. So definitely a disappointing loss over in Destin. Choctaw and South Walton, we kind of saw this one coming. Choctaw, they've got some big boys over there. They got a lot of athletes. Choctaw wins 37-0. And then another game that would be pretty easy to guess. Mariana rolling past North Bay Haven 55-0. That is going to make Mariana the district champions this year because they have a Rutherford, Bozeman, and North Bay Haven district. So that's going to give them a district championship, and they are 7-0. So now we are down to 3 undefeated teams. Now just Mosley, Cottondale, and Mariana. So as far as local teams go, there's just 3.
Gosh.
Is that all the scores tonight?
Slowly picking them off.
This has got to be our smallest week of action that we've probably ever had. We only had 4 games total highlight-wise on Fever. The Chipley game, as we found out this morning, was just canceled on the spot. Coach Buchanan telling me that Hall's Christian Academy out of the Jacksonville area, they called up this morning and said, hey, sorry, we're not coming.
What? Okay.
Not sure. I don't think Coach Buchanan was too happy about it.
I cannot see him being happy about that.
5-1 team and a 1-5 team, so you got to think it's a win for the Tigers. Probably won't end up getting made up. Do
you think that's why? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
Can't pass any judgment on the Hollis Christians. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into our game of the week, which was an undefeated Franklin County and undefeated Cottondale. We got to spend a decent bit of time with Cottondale this week. Talked to Cam and those guys earlier. What did you kind of see from them as they put up another 50-point game?
They were going into the game just so ready to win, honestly. The energy, not that I knew, I don't want to say that, but I really felt the energy just kind of talking to Cam, Wyatt, and even Coach Obert. They were just confident, they were calm, and it was just another game to them. Like they said, they always keep that underdog mentality, no matter if they were 0-5 or 5-0, and now they're 6-0. So
the Dale mentality.
They
kind of got their own staple. It's not an underdog mentality; it's the Dale mentality. You got to ask Coach Obert and the guys. They'll tell you whether basketball season, football season, baseball season. They got that Dale mentality.
Okay, that's what it's called.
The Dale mentality. They love it. They like being considered underdogs, and they do better when they're the underdogs. I don't think they were the underdogs in this particular matchup tonight. I think they probably thought coming in that they had it, but just overall, the Dale mentality, they're a hardworking bunch over there. 56 points. I think they came into this game averaging 45 something per game. So this is probably going to bump them back up to around, 48, 49, right under 50. So clearly those guys can score, and you got to give it to Coach Cooper and Franklin County. This, again, is their best start in program history coming into the night. 5-0. They're now 5-1. We mentioned that this is without Sadiq Jones, who broke his collarbone. He was their top offensive producer, and now they are without him for the season. But they put up a pretty good fight tonight.
For sure.
I mean, especially in the first half, you're like, okay, like this could be a game.
It was a game. It really was, because Cottondale would score, and then Franklin County it'd go drive for drive at one point. So they were competitive. And then I do think that there was a point where Cottondale kind of got a rhythm going, and Franklin County was just kind of like not slacking off, but felt it. So I think it was just a little harder.
Yeah, and talk about a speedster. Jock Garrett, he just gets better and better each game. We knew Cam, he was been coming off an injury, so he's not 100% at this point. So they had to rely on Jock a bit more. And what better a guy to rely on? When your quarterback is a little banged up, but. 56-0 Cottondale. They are 6-0 on the season, and I think we'll get to the other scores later, other games for next week. But they got Liberty next week. So probably another favorable matchup. Good chance of going 7-0.
Yeah.
So.
Well, once they figured out that how to kind of work that line, that defensive line, I felt like that was when we saw it was going to be game over. Yeah.
Game over. Well, I'm looking down in the comments, and like I said, I see a lot of Rutherford fans down there. We'll get to those highlights in a minute. Coach Olds, a Rams getting a win. We got to go Rams. I see some Bluntstown fans in there. Keep giving us the hype down there in the comments. Tell us, who was your favorite performance, who you want to see next week, all that good stuff. We got some good matchups next week, a ton of games. We'll get to that in just a bit. But let's roll in with those Bluntstown Tigers. They get a 38-3 victory. Sneed's actually scoring first. It was 3-0 after we start. Less than a minute into the game, there's an interception. Dalton Brown, he's fantastic. We've seen him, for the last 4 years, a senior night for Sneed's. They're going to hold them to a field goal, and then after that, it's all Bluntstown. All those young guys, Kane Martin, Sion Smith, they are phenomenal. This was a big night for Kane Martin. I'll pull it up in just a minute, the stats for him and what they ended up finishing with. But Bluntstown, they win 38-0, 38 unanswered points. I'm pulling up Kane's stats right now. He was 7 rushes, 119 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So that's a pretty solid stat line, for everybody trying to keep up with Amari Clemens as far as stats goes. But
oh, geez.
Kyan Martin, he's the man. So.
And honestly, when I was at Bluntstown a couple weeks ago, I was really impressed with Tristan King. I was like, he's quarterback, punting. I think he even did kickoff at one point. I was like, okay, just what else can you do?
Right, and we didn't see their matchup last week because they were playing over in Alabama. That was when they were on the road up in Alabama last week, and they ended up losing that game. But 3-2 on the season, you got to be. Anytime you're above 500 at this midpoint, you got to be fine with that, knowing okay, we're in playoff contention. For sure. But 38-3, Bluntstown is the final score. I see some comments. We missed Patterson. That would be Jason Patterson. Before there was Amari Clemens, there was Jason Patterson, Sneed's running back that graduated last year. He's a true freshman at Kentucky, and he is phenomenal. So Sneed's definitely missing their, SEC running back, Jason Patterson.
SEC running back.
We're going to go into the Rutherford game. And like I mentioned during Fever, you got some new paint on the field, recognizing Chance and TJ and Shep, all those guys that over the last couple of years have passed away with Port St. Joe. So a lot of love and respect there, but this was a night for the Rutherford Rams. They have had so many close games this year, so many games where they're leading at the half or they're right in a competitive game at the half and then the other team pulls away. This was their night where they're like, hey, we just got to put our foot on the pedal and not look back. And that's exactly what they did. Jaleel Reed has gotten better and better and better since the season began. A freshman quarterback that just looks so poised, and his threat to, have the dual threat option of his legs and even able to go deep. He has just impressed me more and more and more over the next weeks. Here's Jaleel here with the keeper. He's going to take it to the house. And then when you got guys like Kezion Rochelle and Chaston Scott and Roman Holmes and these guys all over the field that can make plays, it's just a recipe for success. This is the first one where they've actually been able to pull off a victory. I know there's a lot of happy Rutherford fans tonight because there's moral victories, but at the end of the day, a lot of these players are like, yeah, forget the moral victories. We want to win.
Won.
So you got to give it to them tonight. They pulled away against a lot of talented athletes over there at Port St. Joe too. But we're going to give this one 31-7 Rutherford. They are now 1-6, and they got North Bay next week. So again, you got to think a favorable matchup. So we'll see how that goes into next week. We do have the highlights of just one more game, and then we'll talk about. Do we have next week's games? Okay, we'll go into the highlights of Arnold, and then we'll get to next week's games. But this is one where Coach Jason Griffin and his Arnold Marlins, they got off to a hot start this season, and then they ran into some difficult teams with Choctaw, and then I forget who their other loss was at this point. Remind me down in the comments if who Arnold's other loss this season was. But they just show, okay, yeah, we're the better team from start to finish. 40-0, they're going to win this game. Will Cotter, I've mentioned him. He's gotten over and over and over. He's gotten better this season. But these are those ones when okay, you should beat a Vernon, and then when you beat them 40-0, it's like, okay, you're doing your job. 40-0, you can't ask for much better than that. But you're right. This is an Arnold Marlins team who thinks that they can make the playoffs. I told you about them last year where they were what they called themselves the laughing stock of the Panhandle.
They're not doing that anymore.
They're not this year. 5-2, that is putting you in playoff position.
Yeah.
Now, can you clinch the playoffs? We'll see. But right now, you are in a good spot if you're the Arnold Marlins. And certainly, you got to love a statement victory like this.
Speaking of playoffs, there was a question I'm actually curious because I don't really know. So John Brock with 2 playoff divisions in rural classification, who isn't in contention, doesn't everyone go? That's a question I am asking you as well.
No, and that is a great question because we haven't really gotten a whole lot into the playoffs on Afterburn this season, and everything is different this year. All right, so in the rural classification, they're doing something completely different this year. There's a lot of opinions on it. I'll share mine in a second, but basically how it works is the top 20 teams are going to go into a playoff bracket. What that looks like is your seeds, I believe, 16 through 20 are going to play each other in kind of like a at-large bid game. So they'll play each other's for those top seeds. And then after that, it comes into a bracket. I know that's kind of,
I think I need to see it visually.
To imagine. You guys see it visually, but you'll get like a set, or maybe it's 17 versus 20 and 18 versus 19. They'll play each other for those last seeds. And then it just becomes a typical playoff bracket with 16 teams when you're playing, to the final, to the Elite Eight, to the Final Four, to the championship. That's the A bracket. So there's an A bracket and a B bracket. The B bracket is the one that is definitely quite, as we see the hashtag participation trophy. I would honestly kind of agree. There was the whole idea was behind it to give the teams that on a regular basis are not making the playoffs, or smaller schools that are never even competing for the playoffs, a chance to have a tournament that they can compete in. Now, why that kind of became a mess is because coming into this, and the proposal was that there was going to be 40 rural teams. So half would be in the A bracket, half would be in the B bracket. We ended up having about 35 or 36 total teams in the rural bracket. So 20 teams are going to be in the A bracket, and they've given teams that make the B tournament a chance to opt out. So there's a good chance that a lot of these teams that don't make the A bracket are going to be like, I don't want to play in this tournament.
Right.
And then you're going to have about an 8 bracket team to win a championship. They initially were going to call it the B bracket state championship. They've already said we're not going to call it state championship anymore, which I completely agree with.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if you're competing in a B bracket, there's no way, shape, or form that you should be deemed a state champion. I like the competitiveness. I know that we'll have some teams, some smaller schools that are competing in it.
Okay.
I completely disagree with the, how it all shaped out. It's just a 2-year plan to kind of see how it goes.
I see.
I think after this year, a lot of people will be like, yeah, do away with the 2 divisions. We want 1 playoff. We're going to keep it simple like that.
That was a lesson for me. For real.
It really was a lot of off-season homework because it completely changed, and I had to learn a lot of stuff that I didn't know about. But that's how the rural playoffs will shake up. It's going to be really interesting because you got your juggernauts, your Hawthorns, your Madison counties, and then you start getting into our teams. Right now, our highest-ranked team in rural is Chipley. They moved up to 6th this week after beating Holmes County. And then Cottondale's right there in the mix. I think they're around 7 or 8. Franklin County was about 9, so that's going to shake up a little bit with that game.
So is Chipley not playing this week going to affect that at all?
It probably will not. They might go down a little bit, but really it might have hurt them more to play the game because it would hurt their strength of schedule to play a 1-5 team. So they honestly might be better off strength of schedule wise not playing this week. I do see in the comments South Walton beat Arnold. Thank you for helping my memory. We were at that game. It's just been a busy and tumultuous last couple of weeks for sure. But Liberty County fell to Weehawken, Bozeman lost, South Walton lost, and Mariana. They are your district champions. Now we're going to get into next week because, wow, if there was not a lot of football this week, we have a ton of football next week. It's going to be a long
episode.
And it's all important football too. Starting on Thursday, West Florida and Bay High, that's a district championship match. They are in a 3-team district. Most of them have 4 or 5. This is a 3-team district. Bay won their matchup in the district. I think it was against Pensacola. So that means the winner of this game, West Florida and Bay, will be a district champion.
Okay.
So that's a Thursday night starting off with a district championship.
And I see Niceville versus Mosley. Learning is really good, right?
Niceville is fantastic.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Niceville is the second-ranked team in Class 5A, and I think
that's
they're 5 or 6 overall statewide, like through all classifications. Niceville's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, Mosley, to this point, has looked unbeatable. They have not played a team like Niceville. They are on a bye week, so they did not play this week. Neither did Niceville. Both these teams preparing for themselves.
Ooh.
You got Tommy Joe Whidden against some of the guys that he used to coach with. Tommy Joe Whidden used to coach over in the Niceville area, so there's definitely a bitter rivalry there. Last season, Niceville was far and away the favorites. Mosley somehow pulls off an upset in Tommy Oliver to be district champions last year. So there's a lot of bad blood between these two schools. And again, when Mosley, I believe, is the 8th ranked team in Class 5A and Niceville is the 2nd ranked team, they might 7 or 8. They're right there in the top 10.
I think they're 7.
Sure.
I think that's why I even knew about Niceville because I was looking at their stats the other day.
7 and 2. So we'll see if that shakes out before the game. That one, I think, has to be just right off the bat a favorite for our Friday Night Fever game of the week. We'll see what happens this week, but Mosley and Niceville, it is going to be packed out, and it will be the highest quality football game that we'll have in our area this year as far as just Division I players all over the field. This is 2 massive schools with a lot of great guys that are going to be playing for the next 4 years. We'll see how that shakes out. But I know Mosley and Tommy Joe Whidden, that's going to be one that we're going to be previewing and talking to them this week because it will be a lot of fun. I'm sure Niceville's going to bring the band. I'm sure they're going to bring the pep section. I know Mosley's going to have that side of their field packed out, so it will
Where's
be
that game at?
It's going to be at Tommy Oliver Stadium.
Okay.
So
cool.
We got District Championship Bay on Thursday at Tommy Oliver and District Championship, most likely, Niceville and Mosley on Friday. John Brock's got Niceville by 30, so we'll see how that goes. I think most people would have Niceville certainly favored. I don't know about 30, but we'll see.
Ooh.
When you got guys like LaCavian Jackson and just those Division I athletes, it's hard to blow a team out. Raiden Bruins, we'll see though. I will say Niceville certainly is going to be the favorites, but we'll see how things shape out. Fort Walton at Arnold. That one is a district game, so it has significance towards a potential district championship. Rutherford and North Bay Haven, a district game, but neither of them. Again, Mariana's already clinched, so at that point, it's just for wins at this point.
No, maybe North Bay Haven. Maybe. I don't know.
Let's see. She's got faith. Franklin County, they're going to look to bounce back from their loss to Cottondale. They're going to go to Wewa. Liberty County going to Cottondale, who will be looking to go 7-0. Holmes County coming off a bye week, visiting Vernon. South Walton visiting Freeport. That's a district game. So South Walton and Freeport will play, and Walton and Pensacola Catholic will play. Both of those are district matchups. So, yeah, that would be interesting as far as that district goes. But you got to think Pensacola Catholic is probably the favorites. Is that on the next page? It is indeed. Walton at Pensacola Catholic. I would think that Pensacola is going to be favored this year in that matchup. Walton beat them last year for the first time since like 2004, but they graduated a lot of guys. They got Wells Bettenhausen. They got some guys that can turn up the heat on offense, but it will be very difficult for them to beat Pensacola Catholic. Mariana will host Leon. Bluntstown going on the road to Dixie County. Sneeds at Jefferson County. And then Chipley, what do we call them? We said North Florida Educational Institute. Yeah. I don't know. I think they're over in Jacksonville. And actually, I should have let you know, Spencer, but that Bozeman and St. Joe game, they're actually going to be playing each other on Thursday. It's a makeup game. They were supposed to be playing earlier, and this was their bye week. So this was their scheduled bye week, Bozeman and St. Joe. So my apologies to Spencer. He's already got it. He's got it on the spot. And it's going to be St. Joe at Bozeman, I think. I believe it's St. Joe at Bozeman. But that will be this Thursday night. That one was rescheduled a couple weeks ago just due to some weather, some different circumstances. So that game will be a Thursday one, same as Bay High.
You couldn't have clipped it at a different frame?
I'm not sure if you guys can still hear us. We're freezing up a bit.
Comment yes if you can hear us.
But that was going to be the end of our show anyway. So if you can't hear us, thanks for sticking around this long. Are we good, Spence? Are we? We don't know if you can hear us or not, but we're going to wrap it up tonight because we got a lot to talk about next week. We got a lot of good football games.
Yes, they can. Someone commented.
Okay,
yes.
so they can hear you,
Yay.
just can't see us? Okay.
Well.
Okay. Well, I appreciate all of you for sticking with us.
Yes,
we've been off
thank
the last
you.
couple of weeks with weather and hurricanes and all kinds of circumstances. We had fever on a Monday this last week.
Yeah.
But we appreciate your support as always. We'll have a
love you
lot of great
guys.
football for you next week, and hopefully we'll have no technical issues. So we will see you guys on week 8. Y'all have a good one.